Yes, you can revise your past. Revision with Neville Goddard 101. So this was big for me when I found Neville because I was coming from the law of attraction world. And granted, the law of attraction, it's good, it's fine. But again, it's coming from 3D. It's in this kind of three-dimensional world, and it's really kind of dealing from the limits that we kind of put on ourselves as these humans in this earth experiment, right? And so what you realize when you truly get into Neville's work and you start to read the things he teaches and how he aligns it all to scripture, which is so powerful, we're really working from the plane of miracles. We are working from the quantum field, okay? So it's very, very important to understand that when you watch any near-death experience video, and I'm probably going to say this a million times on this channel because it's so important. I feel that I'm a very logical person, and so I need to find evidence for the things that I am, geeking out on and learning when it comes to spirituality. So I have found that binging hundreds and hundreds of near-death experience videos is what has led me to confirm with utter certainty that time really doesn't exist. So because time really doesn't exist, but in our limited, slow down experience of the Earth experiment in 3D, right? We see it as linear time. We see that we've got this past moment that we went through. Now we're in this present moment, and then we're going to this future moment. We see it as linear time. I mean, we even have calendars, right? So like we look at a calendar like, oh, in June, like it's just, our brain is linear. So we're always going to go back to that amnesia, if you will, that, forgetting where we truly came from. And that this whole thing that we're doing is just this fun little game that we're playing, right? This Earth experiment game. So time doesn't exist. And so when you really start to realize that time doesn't exist, you start to realize that you can actually do that kind of future vision work with your past. Now, this kind of goes hand in hand with self-concept because a lot of the ways that we view ourselves, and most of it's subconscious, right? A lot of the ways we view ourselves is from our past. It's from how we grew up. It's from what we learned about the world. It's from the experiences we had. Maybe we had a ton of rejection. Maybe we had a lot of trauma, right? So obviously there's going to be varying degrees of how gnarly our kind of past experiences were. So for some of us, it could be very, very, very traumatic stuff, right? So we're going to break down, how to do this if it's really gnarly trauma, okay? But let's just talk about, an easy scenario. So let's say in the past, you had a pattern of attracting people that ignore you or avoid you or reject you, right? So this is something that is literally shaping your self-concept right now. So you can do all of the robotic affirming you want. You can do all the visualization you want. You can, create this vision board and try to look at it every day. Whatever technique you're doing, these techniques that we do in, the Law of Assumption community, you could be doing a technique and that's not necessarily going to work or hold for a long time if your self-concept is wobbly. I find that the revision work is really truly the self-concept revision, right? It's really revising our self-concept. It's going back in time and saying, oh, well, what could have happened instead? And you'll be surprised when you do this work, you may stumble upon something that happened to you that you look as negative. And when you go to change it, you realize, wait, actually, maybe I don't want to change it because maybe it shaped me into who I am. So another really cool part about this work is you might actually realize that there's some positive qualities of the things you went through. Now, it doesn't matter how you want to do this, but I think the best way to do it is go in decades. So I would do age 0 to 10, right? And then 10 to 20, 20 to 30, and then my 40s, right? And so I'd break it down on a piece of paper. I think that's the easiest way to do it. And just, meditate on, okay, what happened in my childhood that I can remember that was just so awful and has, been holding me back, right? Because there's no point in doing revision work unless we really truly believe it's something we're still holding on to. It's something we're still clinging to from the past. So here's the thing. I know your brain is not going to understand this, but because time doesn't exist, when you go back into the past and you revise it, it will shift the future, okay? Now, here's the thing. I want you to understand that, yes, you're not necessarily changing what happened in the aspect where you're going to go to those people that you experience it with it and be like, we never experienced that. They'll probably think you're a little bit crazy and a little bit loony. But at the end of the day, the past doesn't exist anymore. It only exists in your mind. That's where it is. You can't go back to it, right? So the fact that it only exists in your mind means that you can actually change the way you're looking at it, change the meaning of it, and even change how it went down. So I'll give you a great example of this. So I went a little bit extreme in this assignment. So again, you do it your way, but I literally went back in time and I brain dumped every single thing that happened to me that I thought was negative. And I went through each one and I was like, how can I make this different? If I had the power to change it, like if it was so different, right? And I went through each one. And one of the things that I revised was a relationship in the past. It was actually a friendship. And I just revised it. I revised it in a way that, we never had a fight. Now, me and this person are actually totally fine. Like it was just way back that we had like a fight, but I completely revised it. And literally 2 days later, this person wrote me and they said, so random, I thought of you. And they just sent me like a fun memory from our time when we were friends. And my mind was blown away. Because at the end of the day, all minds are joined. So by going back and revising it, not only did I revise it to make me feel better about my relationships, right? That was like one of the biggest things that I was working on in this revision assignment. I looked back and I was like, I have so many negative experiences of partnership, in romance, with friends, just very negative experiences where I felt like I didn't belong, or I didn't feel like I was enough, or I didn't feel like I was accepted, or, whatever, rejected. And so it was just crazy to see that not only was I doing this to change me in a weird way, because I had to revise it when I did this assignment, I actually started to look at this person differently, right? Whereas in the past, maybe in that moment in the past, I was pissed at them because we had a fight, right? So I started to look at them differently. And so when you start to do this work, you start to realize that it forces you to actually think better thoughts about people too. So one last thing I'll say on this topic is that you can also do this in your day-to-day and in your weeks. So for example, if you're going to bed at night and you're like, that was the worst day of my life, you can go and you can revise it. You can be like, but what would have happened if that didn't happen? And you really want to access the feeling. It's the feeling. So you might be feeling upset because of something negative that happened, right? And then you think to yourself, well, if I were to revise this day, what would have happened instead? And I'm telling you, your mind's not going to want to do it. Your ego is going to be like, no, this is what happened. But you're going to force your mind to go into your imagination. And it's not necessarily about the imagination. It's about the feeling. What would I be feeling if the day had gone the way I wanted it to? And you want to get into that feeling before you're falling asleep. Okay, so let's talk about trauma and really gnarly feelings like deep grief. When things are happening to you in your life, you have to remember that you're also playing this character in this movie, right? So you are, I am Jennifer, and you are also, I am presence, right? You're the I am presence and you're also the character. So there are going to be times where you're going to have to just allow whatever feelings are coming up and love yourself through that, right? Like today I can't revise because today I'm feeling these feelings and they are gnarly and they are strong, and just processing emotion. There's a difference between processing emotion and clinging and wallowing and being addicted to an emotion, right? And you're going to have to figure out the difference. Not everyone is clear when they're kind of addicted to an emotion, and that's really more wallowing versus allowing an emotion to come up, saying, I'm here for you, I love you, and allowing it to come through you and realizing you are not the emotion, you're playing the character and the character is having an emotion. Because there are some traumatic experiences that you might not be ready to revise. You might not even want to revise. And I would say that the best step is forgiveness, the forgiveness process. And I love the Hawaiian meditation, Ho'oponopono, for that. Definitely look that up. I also love emotional freedom technique, or tapping is another great technique. But you just have to know yourself in this work, because at the end of the day, this is all the power of your mind. So no one else outside of you matters, right? It's just you, and you have to understand yourself. So there's going to be some days where you're like, no, today I'm not going to revise. Today I'm going to feel. So in summary, time doesn't exist. It's all the moment of now. And we can use the power of our mind, just like we do with the future, our future self. We can use the power of our mind to imagine a past self, a different version of our past self. If you have questions about this, please put them in the comments below, and make sure to join me for the Mindset Fix. It's only $11, and we can do this privately in our Facebook group. I also have private coaching. We can do conscious creation together, and I can support you on the journey. So make sure to click the link below for that as well. I hope you enjoyed this video. Make sure to subscribe, and I'll catch you next week.